Is dual sporting the best type of riding you can do? Maybe. So it depends on a few variables, but I'm going to talk about everything we've learned about dual sporting in the last couple years here, and especially with some of our new bikes, and talk about it right now. Okay, so a lot of guys have been riding dirt bikes their whole life, like myself, and you've been motocrossing or trail riding or off-road riding, all kinds of different riding. And now a lot of guys are starting to dual sport, and even adventure bike and so forth. I'm not probably going down that route anytime soon, but I want to talk about dual sporting. And so what we've been doing over the last few years is toying with it. Spencer has his license now, and now he's going away to school and going to be gone for a long time. And so a lot of my friends have dual sport bikes. So I've been looking at this a little bit more often. And from my house, we can ride. Here's actually a local track you can see right here. This is Paris Raceway, actually not too awfully far from my house. You can actually get above the track, look around, and kind of see. This is on a test day. We're out there with Racer X that day. We got David Pingree and Spencer riding. Dual sports there's some freedoms that it allows you to do. Now there's some things that aren't maybe as enjoyable as motocross or a good trail ride on a 300, but it gives you a lot of freedom just to be able to go on longer rides because you're not killing yourself on a motocross track or a really tough trail that you can only do for a few hours and you're worn out the rest of the day kind of thing. So with dual sporting, we tend to do longer rides, and when I say longer rides, we don't go do 150 miles in a day. We're usually doing anywhere from 50 to 80, 90 miles max in a day, depending upon how much roads and so forth. And then making it a bit of an adventure into it, going to a place to eat lunch and so forth. Here we're in the mountains in Mammoth, just cruising around. We ride side by side a little bit, staggered, stay out of the dust. And so we've come up with a good way to do that together, and it's really fun. With more of my friends having dual sports, we're going to be able to ride together, and now I probably have 5 or 6 guys that have dual sports that really enjoy it. And I've talked to a lot of other guys, even throughout the country, who are starting to pick up on dual sports. And so I think that's one of the keys, is if you can find a friend or 2 or 3 that have dual sports, if you're the only guy that has one, it tends maybe to not to be nearly as much fun if you're just going to go out by yourself. Or if you go to the track by yourself, you're meeting up with other guys, you're able to ride with other people. Same thing on trail rides and so forth. But with dual sporting, I think it is something that's kind of fun to do with somebody else. You guys can go exploring together, go eat lunch, like I said, and then head back home. So that's something to look at. My buddy Brett at ICW, he's back in North Carolina. He just got into this dual sporting in the last couple years, and he's been getting a group of guys. They've been going all over to different areas in that out there. Out west here, we have a lot of areas to go that are like this Jeep road wide. I call it truck wide or Jeep wide kind of trails. So that's something that we look at. Is you get a lot of those, and then a lot of times you can find some good single track or ATV wide trails off of these. Like again, this spot is close to Mammoth, where the motocross is in that general area. This is a fun hill climb we got here. We always find little cool things, and you can see it's just gorgeous up there. Now in here, we're probably around anywhere from 8 to 10,000 feet in elevation. So a lot cooler temperatures, of course. In the summertime out in California, that's really nice to go find. That's why we tend to go to the mountains. We went up to Big Bear just recently as well. Is an area that has a lot of fire roads and things, and you can find some other stuff off of there when you head down. Now, the term tri-sport has not been coined yet, and Spencer and I have come up with this term, and we are, I don't know if we were going to say we're going to own it, patent it, whatever, but tri-sport, where you go, dual sport is on-road and off-road, but then a tri-sport goes on the motocross track too. And this bike, this KTM 350 we did for Racer X, it's a 366 big bore. This thing is at home on the track, and other than the suspension being a little soft because it's set up for trail, it's plenty capable on a track. And so I think a lot of guys, if you're not that serious about the track, you're only going to go to the track 10, 20% of the time, you're riding easier vet tracks or grass tracks, field tracks, you're going to be totally fine, can get some moto in and use the same bike. We have the luxury of having multiple bikes, but a lot of guys would just have one bike, and a KTM EXC can kind of be that tri-sport where it can go on the road like this, and you can cruise around, you could ride to the track. And I remember years ago getting beat by Gary Jones at a race once, and he had rode to the track on a dual sport, beat me on the track, and then rode home. That was really depressing. But that's something that you can do with an KTM EXC or a FE from Husqvarna. Very similar bikes, and you can do a lot of that kind of stuff. You can go right from the road to the dirt, go exploring on trails. You can go. That's the biggest thing that you can do, say, around your house where you live, is go exploring. I always tell people wherever they live, they say there's nowhere to ride. I say, look by the dump or the train tracks. If you go look in those two areas, usually you can find a place to ride anywhere around the U.S. if you go look in those two areas. So in those areas or next to a motocross track, you can go find something. But train tracks and the dump, see if you can find some places to go explore. You might be able to find something fun to go play in. We can go find some stuff. Again, some of the road stuff, I'm not a big road rider, but I feel comfortable in town. I don't go on the highway, so to speak. 45, 50 miles an hour is kind of our top cruising around speed. I'm not big on going on the highway. I'm not sure if that's something I'll ever do, but growing up, riding motocross and trails a bit, a lot of guys aren't comfortable on the street, and that's kind of the way I feel. I'm comfortable just getting from trail to trail and taking the asphalt. And that's where a lot of dual sport guys that I run into do. They feel more comfortable. Spencer and I have come up with a really cool communication system. One of the advantages of dual sports is they have horns. So we'll honk the horn once, and if you honk it once, that means everything's cool. If you honk it twice or more, that means something's wrong, stop, we went the wrong way. So if the guy out front turns the wrong way from what the other guy thinks or says, so that'll help us know what to do. So we use the horns as a bit of a system. We've come in with, we're learning a lot as we dual sport, early. And I'm 50 years old now, and so now I'm going to be dual sporting with a lot of my friends. And I don't know if it's something I'll do more than, say, once a month or twice a month, because I can still moto. And part of me feels like as long as I can still moto, I should moto as often as I can. And as you can see, my legs are a little short, and I don't have quite the skill. And I was trying to get Spencer a little wet here, but he stayed back far enough because he's a little smarter than that. So that's something to consider is, if you're going to still want to moto some and maybe have two bikes where you got a moto bike, or a trail bike, then part of me says, hey, what's the big deal in having 2 or 3 or 4 dirt bikes? It's way cheaper than midlife crisis of having a girlfriend or a Dodge Viper, or what do guys get, a Corvette. So it's way cheaper than doing that as having a few dirt bikes, for 8 to 10 grand each than some other terrible midlife crisis that you could have. So for old guys, I don't think you can go wrong dual sport, and there's so much you can do and explore. I love being able to roll up to the gas station, fill up. We don't even ever bring gas when we go dual sporting because you can just go ride to the gas station. We have big tanks on our bikes with IMS. Our bikes are really fun. On this video, we're riding a 500 Husky right there, and then I was on a 500 EXC that was a 2013, which is an older bike, but that's a really good bike. And I have a video coming out that talks about that bike and how it compares to a brand new bike. So again, there's so much you can do and go and explore. We've had a great time riding these dual sports lately, and we've been doing way more of it. So hopefully we'll check you out and see you out in the track or trail soon. Enjoy our dual sporting.